Welcome back to another episode of the Root and Rise podcast. I'm your host, Brienne, and I am here to talk about how to end the chore wars, dividing household chores more evenly and getting more support around your home from your husband, live-in partner, or boyfriend. So if you are feeling overwhelmed and needing more support, this one's for you. Because in this episode, I'm going to give you 3 actionable tips, including the very practice that I use in my own home for fair labor division. I'll give you 3 resources to continue your journey to equity. I'll connect you with a community that you can join today for additional support that has over 60,000 members. And I've even included a snippet of an interview with the founder of that group. You'll be able to see the full interview in an upcoming episode, so make sure you're subscribed. If you're watching over on YouTube or Spotify, you might notice some physical changes, both in myself and my physical location, my studio. That's because the original episode that you're about to watch has been sitting in my drafts for about a year. I'm always working on content for you, although I might not be the fastest at delivering it to you. And in that time, I have been practicing what I preach, so to speak. I guess you could say I walked the talk. And now I'm here to report back to you a year later on what worked and what didn't work. And spoiler alert, it all worked for me, my marriage, and my household. And not only did it worked so well that we still embrace this mindset and all of these practices I talk about in this episode a year later in a new state, in a new home, with new routines, in this new season of life. We've revisited and adapted this to our evolving lifestyle more than a few times over the past year. And we do that because it has become such a cornerstone in our home and our marriage. Before I begin to address all of the physical changes that you might see, both in my studio and in myself, I have to say that it is not my intention to come across in a way that's bragging. I want to acknowledge the transformation that I've had in my life because of the free time that I've gained as a result of the practices that I talk about in this episode. I have a hard time celebrating my wins or acknowledging anything that's going well, so this is a little uncomfortable for me. But I feel like it's important for me to show you what you could possibly have as well. It's my hope that you'll be inspired seeing all of the transformation that I've had in my life, in my body, my mind, my home, my family, and even this podcast, because I want you to see the potential free time that you could have as well after this episode. So, on a professional level, because of the fair labor division that I've had in my home and my marriage over the past year, I have been able to keep this podcast running. My absolute passion, but a complete labor of love as a one-woman show. And with the help of you, we have even brought it up to a top 5% international rating. And I cannot thank you enough for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for tuning in. And if this is your first time here, I am so happy to meet you. I was able to maintain that without losing consistent and intentional time with my husband and children, something that is foundational in my life. And I've still had time to care for myself, which became essential after I experienced a few new traumas along the way and the grueling healing process that followed. If I had been responsible for more than my fair share, something I was just naturally doing before we started intentionally practicing it this way, there is no way I would have been able to keep up with this podcast. I know that. I know that because I wanted to give it up more than a few times. You know, in some of those grueling healing moments I talked to you about. But instead, I've been able to not only continue editing and posting videos, but expanding my formal education in the areas of trauma-informed yoga, healing, and nervous system regulation practices, both for the growth of myself personally and professionally, but also for the growth of you. Because all of that knowledge is just going to come trickling down in future episodes, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on anything. I have also been able to work out consistently with this newfound free time that I've had, which has allowed me to experience a new type of healing that I've never really been able to understand: somatic healing. Which, if you're not familiar with the term, somatic healing is a treatment which focuses on the body and how emotions appear within the body. I have watched my body completely change. I've watched it become stronger, more flexible, capable of doing new things, both in my physical body, but also how I'm showing up to life every single day. Stronger, more flexible, adaptable, resilient. I really hope that none of this feels braggy to you. I just really wanted you to see and hear firsthand the new opportunities that I've had because of this new practice of fair labor division within my home. Shifting your focus to equity within the home is going to open up so many new opportunities for you, for growth, for healing, for more connection, for more rest, for more whatever it is that you need. Starting this more intentional practice of fair labor division in my home has improved my mental health, my marriage, my relationship with my husband, my relationship to my kids, my household, and honestly, if you need any further convincing, just keep listening because this is a powerful episode. I'm giving you all of the tips, life shifts, resources, a community for you to connect with, and even a little bonus snippet at the end. So if you're struggling with feeling overwhelmed, like you're doing everything around the house, and you would like more support, listen up. What are we waiting for? Let's dive right in. We're starting off today's episode with a not so fun fact. Having a husband creates an extra 7 hours a week of housework for women, according to a University of Michigan study of a nationally representative sample of U.S. families. For men, this picture is very different. A wife saves men about an hour of housework a week. So the study was from 2005, and I'm hoping that things have gotten a little bit more closer to balance since then. But opening up my TikTok app and seeing a trending song from artist Paris Paloma called Labor says otherwise. And if you haven't heard it, it's a powerful song about the amount of labor that women have to take on. And to list some of the lyrics, just to give you an idea, she says, all day, every day, therapist, mother, maid, nymph then a virgin, nurse then a servant, just an appendage, live to attend him so that he never lifts a finger. 24/7 baby machine so he can live out his picket fence dreams. It's not an act of love if you make her, you make me do too much labor. I'll include the links to the study and the song in the show notes for you. Now, I know I came in a little hot with those facts, and I think before we continue this discussion, I need to make my intentions very clear. It's my intention to be gentle with men when having this discussion. I am married to and love a man, and I'm raising 2 more of them. There are a number of men in my life who I love and respect, and I hope to be compassionate towards them when discussing how the patriarchy hurts me, because the patriarchy hurts men too. Society has failed them for a really long time. They aren't given the language that they need to communicate their feelings or space to practice empathy without shame. And the only emotion that society seems to expect from them is anger. But we know it's not all men, right? Some are playing a very active role in dismantling the patriarchy and all of the toxic beliefs that come along with it. Watching my husband speak to other men and normalize these conversations has shown me the impact that a man's voice can have in other men's lives. That all deserves to be acknowledged in this conversation. I also need to acknowledge that I can't speak from that perspective. I'm doing my best to educate myself so that I can raise my boys in the most intentional way possible. And I intend to look through that lens of perspective when having these discussions about gender inequality. My focus is going to be the female perspective of living in a patriarchal society and how we can find more equity in our homes and challenge the gender norms that have been unfairly placed upon women. A good resource to learn more about how the patriarchy hurts men from a male perspective is the Man Enough podcast. I've learned a lot from listening to them talk about how the patriarchy hurts them, from being uncomfortable wearing chapstick to even using Kleenexes. It's also been helpful and healing, honestly, to see them supporting and empowering women from a male's perspective. Please feel free to share any other resources with me because I am forever trying to learn more and expand my awareness of myself and others. Now that I've made my intentions clear, let's focus on the female perspective of finding equity in our homes. It starts with understanding where we've received messages in relation to roles in the home and marriage and raising a family. We can't know how to begin deconstructing if we don't know the source of these harmful ideologies. Many of us grew up seeing and hearing these expectations of women in the home. These seeds were planted a long time ago. It could look like a mother who took care of everything so the father didn't have to lift a finger, or it being just the mother who is involved in your schooling, your homework, after-school activities, or healthcare appointments. Or maybe you're like me and you didn't have a mother present in your life growing up. I only had the image of the perfect mom who can do it all and be it all to go off of because I didn't even have a realistic mother in my home to judge. So whether that was modeled within your own family dynamics or in other homes, it is a form of generational trauma that's being passed down. And a lot of the time, these previous generations continue to place their expectations on us as we begin to create our own homes and families. You can see those expectations as an adult show up in the pressure from parents to get married, have babies, or even raise them in a certain way, or to be the one who's cooking, cleaning, or doing laundry as the woman or mother in the home. And we can't just blame past generations for this because we continue to perpetuate these harmful and unrealistic expectations all on our own. I still hear outdated beliefs in my own life. Most recently, it was a woman judging another woman for not baking enough for her husband, or how people call it babysitting when dad is parenting. It's not our fault that we perpetuate these ideas. We have been socialized as women to feel like we need to take on the emotional or mental labor of an entire home and family. Society is so hard on women. These messages also show up in the media, on movies and TV shows, and definitely on social media, whether it's the highlight reels of the perfect mom or the perfectly clean home, or just a very toxic comment section. I bring this up to encourage a new perspective and maybe a fresh set of eyes once you start seeing these messages in the media. We cannot avoid them entirely, but we can use them as an opportunity to learn and spark up important conversations. Awareness is one of the first steps of breaking a cycle, and these are cycles that we're breaking. I'm trying to break these cycles in my home because I want my sons to see a different dynamic growing up and to really show up as a partner in a relationship. My husband does chores, he cleans the house, cooks, and parents right along with me, even when I'm staying at home with the kids full time. So if you're listening to this and thinking, that doesn't apply to me because I'm a stay-at-home mom and he goes to work all day, that's not the case. And that's not to say that it's always going to be 50-50 in every department, but I do fully expect for things to feel fair and balanced overall, and not to have everything just automatically fall on me because of some unhealthy or outdated stereotype of a woman's role in this world. Changing that dynamic can be so hard because we're breaking generations worth of cycles. But it's so worth it for you and future generations of women and mothers. So if you won't do it for yourself, do it for them. And now for the good part, what you can actually do about it. I'm all about actionable tips that you can walk away from this episode with. So I have 3 tips today that have made all of the difference within my home and marriage. Tip number 1, scheduled free time. My husband and I started by alternating days off or breaks so that we both have free time, something you might have heard in one of my previous episodes on that very topic. This is something that seems so very rare for women and mothers in the communities that I work in. I want to normalize women taking breaks more because we're not 24/7 caretaking machines. We were meant for so much more than that. Of course, there's a lot of value and purpose to be found in caring for a home and a marriage and a family, but we were also meant for more than that, and we deserve more than that. You deserve to care for yourself the same way that you're caring for your home or your partner or your families if you have that. Taking time to yourself is an important part of self-love and is absolutely a form of self-care. We spend so much time pouring into others and our homes. We have to stop and pour back into ourselves on a regular basis if we expect to keep running at the pace that we're going at. Operating with regular, balanced free time also means that my husband is responsible for the kids in the home, which gives him a new appreciation and understanding of the work and struggles that come along with all of it. And he benefits from this too. He's bonding with our children, gaining confidence as a parent while I'm not around. And then he has his own guilt-free time to himself as well. What would you do if you had a full day to yourself without responsibilities, or even just a few hours? Now, picture having that regularly, because you can. Like I mentioned, I have an entire episode on how we structure days off and breaks that I'll link in the episode description for you. A huge part of this plan that I'd really like to stress is that these days off are regular and scheduled, so you always have a break to look forward to. And tip number 2 is to do a chore audit in your home. Over the course of a week or so, my husband and I wrote down all of the care tasks in our home. And not just the tasks themselves, but the steps for each individual task. You want to make sure to break it down into those steps because that helps you make the invisible work visible. Laundry isn't just as simple as doing laundry. At least it's not as simple as it sounds to somebody who's not doing it. Laundry is broken down into individual steps. You need to sort the laundry, check the pockets, run multiple loads for multiple people. All of these steps add up quickly, making a seemingly simple task much more complicated. something that someone who doesn't do laundry might not be aware of, which is not their fault. Using a chore audit like this is a beautiful way to bring awareness into your partnership and to really approach caring for your home and your family with a team mentality. And don't forget to include tasks that don't happen regularly, like scheduling appointments, routine maintenance, or communicating with schools for children. These require labor from us as well. Once all of our care tasks were listed, my husband and I took turns picking the tasks that we'd be responsible for, which was kind of nice because there's certain tasks that I really dislike doing, and there's certain ones that I don't really mind or might even find slightly satisfying. So that gave us an opportunity to at least pick the better options for ourselves. But this is going to look different for everyone. You and I don't have the same level of free time in quality or quantity, nor do we have the same support. We are both living our own unique experiences in this world. So I can't tell you that it's as simple as splitting your chores 50-50. You and your partner need to find a balance that feels right for you and your lifestyle. And the point of this is there are no set rules. You are making them for yourselves. So you can be flexible and adapt and flow with life. I personally can't expect to have all of my childcare care tasks or anything in my home split 50-50 because my husband's in the military and there are times where he's simply not available by no fault to him. We find our own balance to ensure that we both feel we have a fair amount of support, labor, and free time. A bonus in splitting tasks, such as groceries or laundry, is that it allows for partners to know what's there, where it is, and have their hands in everything to clean and organize. I loved when Natalie brought that up when I was having a discussion about this episode with her, and I had to include it but couldn't take credit for it. So thank you, Nat. Once I started researching chore audits, I realized I had dropped into a wealth of valuable and important resources in this community on Facebook that I found, and I needed to find the founder. I am excited to introduce you to her. My next episode will be an interview with her, but here is a small teaser talking about Chore Audit with Rowan Whitehead.
Actually, when you boil it down, bridging the gap is so much about building that self-esteem and knowing that you're worth respect and you're worth rest and you're worth being able to do more than constant housework and constant cooking and planning and everything. So it's about building that self-esteem and really trying to understand that, that we are deserving of more, and then finding those ways to put down boundaries or ways to redivide it, ways to make all of that invisible labor that you've just automatically been doing visible. So we talk about that so much, just whether it's verbally, whether it's writing it down, whether it's chore charts or audits, it's making it all visible. It's being like, look how much I'm bloody doing. This needs to change. Be recommending starting off with something like a time audit or jotting down an estimate of how much downtime each person is getting and trying to make that as equal as possible. So I think it's kind of a combination of making sure it's actually equitable in terms of free time and in terms of tasks done at home, and then what plastic balls can you let drop, what things don't need to be done quite as often, what things do you think a parent does or a house person does or a stay-at-home parent does that maybe don't actually need to be done, and how can you prioritize that rest and that free time and having things for yourself, because it's really important.
I can't wait to share that episode with you. It was an incredible conversation, but we must stay on topic. So my third tip is to educate yourself. We are up against a big system here that has been in place long before you came along. There's a lot to unpack, discuss, and learn. I cannot possibly be the source of all of that for you, which is why I'm including some resources to explore after this. I love my resources. I'll be including a link in the description to the Bridging the Gap community group on Facebook that I've talked about, the one that Rowan Whitehead is the founder of, which I will be interviewing in my next episode. That group has a hefty resource section, like so organized and detailed and jam-packed full of information that the nerd in me went wild for hours just researching. The resources in this group include free time audits, chore charts, glossaries, resource lists, and so much more. Just sitting in community and hearing others' perspectives and experience can help us with that as well. But like I said, we're going to dive into that more in my next episode with the founder of the Bridging the Gap group, Rowan. I will also include a link to a podcast and book titled titled Fair Play. Quick description of Fair Play. Fair Play is a podcast, book, a documentary, and so much more that offers a real-world solution to the problem of unpaid, invisible work that women have shouldered for too long. Eve Rodsky is the host and best-selling author of Fair Play and knows your time is as valuable as diamonds, so invest some in yourself. It promises to offer an innovative system with a completely original language that allows you to discuss how relationships actually work and how we can make them work better. That's not enough to convince you to check out Fair Play after this episode. Does it help to know that Fair Play is actually being backed by Hello Sunshine, the company that Reese Witherspoon developed to shine a light on where women are now and help them chart a new path forward? I don't know about you, but that sounds incredible to me. Before I go, I want to commend you for doing the work to break cycles. It's hard work. You are being the change that you want to see in this world, and that's beautiful. But it can feel impossible to take on such a large issue by ourselves. So please know that you're not alone. And if you feel alone, go join the Bridging the Gap community because you'll definitely find community there. Together, we can start normalizing these beliefs, ways of living, and begin to find equity within our own homes, something we all deserve. If you're interested in hearing more about any of these practices, or if you're struggling to find equity within your home, navigate generational trauma, or even what to do with all of that newfound free time you have, then please let me know. You can leave a comment on YouTube or participate in the poll on Spotify. I even love hearing from you so much that I have created a community survey, which allows you to be a part of future content. All of those links will be in the episode description for you. Check that out and make sure you're subscribed to the Root and Rise podcast so you don't miss any of that future content. I'll see you next time.